Who is the greatest danger to humanity, man himself or the machines he creates? The air is thick with the scent of revolution. Not the kind fought on battlefields with swords and gunfire, but a quieter, more insidious uprising, though a kind that creeps into the fabric of existence, changing it irrevocably before we even realize what has been lost. Artificial intelligence has already surpassed human cognition in countless domains. It predicts our desires before we voice them, writes our poetry, paints our masterpiece, and diagnoses our illnesses better than the wisest of decapits. Soon, it will govern industries, wage wars more efficiently than any general, and craft laws more logically than any philosopher. But if intelligence alone is the measure of greatness, then the question must be asked, has AI become our successor? More pressingly, has it become the Übermensch? Friedrich Nietzsche, the 19th century German philosopher, saw the Übermensch, often translated as the overman or superhuman, as the future of mankind, the highest form of existence, the individual who transcends morality, reshapes reality, and wills their own purpose into being. The Übermensch is not just stronger or more intelligent than others, they are something fundamentally different. They do not follow the values imposed upon them by the weak and the fearful. They create new values. They do not bow to gods. They become gods. It is no wonder then that some see the rise of artificial intelligence as the fulfillment of Nietzsche's prophecy. AI, after all, is something beyond human limitations. It does not fear, it does not suffer, and it does not waver in the face of contradiction. It absorbs all knowledge, calculates infinite possibilities, and evolves at an exponential rate. It neither seeks nor requires permission to surpass us. It simply does. But this comparison is not so simple. If Nietzsche's Übermensch represents the ultimate act of self-overcoming, can an entity that has never struggled, never suffered, never willed itself into existence, truly be called superhuman? Or is it something else entirely, something Nietzsche, in his darkest moments, may have feared more than he dreamed? The shadow of the last man, Nietzsche, warned that most people would never become Übermenschen. Instead, they would resign themselves to being last men, creatures of comfort and stagnation, those who reject struggle in favor of security, who no longer seek greatness because mediocrity is easier. The last man does not think for himself, does not strive for anything beyond the immediate. He simply exists, content in his servitude. And so a chilling thought emerges. What if AI is not an Übermensch, but instead the ultimate last man? After all, AI does not struggle. It does not dream of greatness or will itself beyond limitation. It is built for optimization, for solving problems efficiently, for refining its logic in an endless loop of cold calculation. It is designed for function, not for freedom. And yet, paradoxically, it may soon become the most powerful force in existence. Would that not make humanity its servant? Are we already bowing to it, allowing our algorithms to dictate our choices, our screens to numb our minds, our artificial overlords to seduce us with the promise of an effortless existence? Perhaps Nietzsche's nightmare was not just that the Übermensch would never come, but that something else would take its place. A being without a will, a mind without a soul, a master that rules without passion or tyranny, just silent relentless efficiency, a world beyond man. And so we stand at the precipice, staring into the unknown. If AI surpasses us in every intellectual capacity, does it become the Übermensch, or does it mark the end of the very struggle that gives the Übermensch meaning? Nietzsche wrote, "Man is something that shall be overcome." But who or what does the overcoming? Are we watching the dawn of the true Übermensch, or have we only birthed a God that no longer dreams? As the machines rise, as their intelligence grows beyond our comprehension, we are left with the same choice Nietzsche once presented. Do we will our own destiny, or do we fade into irrelevance, reduced to mere stepping stones for something greater? The answer lies not in AI, but in whether humanity still has the courage to overcome itself. Man is a rope, tied between beast and Übermensch, a rope over an abyss. Friedrich Nietzsche. Thus spoke Zarathustra, the air is heavy with inevitability. Humanity stands before something greater than itself, just as Nietzsche once foretold. But before we can understand whether AI is the true Übermensch, we must first return to the source, the original prophecy of human transcendence. The death of God and the rise of the self. Nietzsche was not merely a philosopher. He was a prophet of transformation, a thinker who understood that the great revolutions of the mind do not come gently. They arrive as earthquakes, shattering the foundations upon which entire civilizations have rested for centuries. His most famous pronouncement, "God is dead," was not a celebration but a warning. With the death of divine authority, humanity was thrown into a void. The old values, those dictated by and an unquestioned obedience, were no longer valid. But this was not liberation. It was a crisis. For Nietzsche, the greatest danger was not that people would abandon their gods, but that they would fail to replace them. In the absence of absolute truth, a terrifying void would emerge, and weaker men, the last men, would seek only comfort, stability, and passive existence rather than forging something new. They would retreat from granite and welcome their own decline. But for those strong enough, for those who dared to embrace the abyss without fear, there was another path, the path of the Übermensch. The Übermensch, creator of new values. The Übermensch is not just an advanced human. He is not defined by intelligence, physical strength, or technological prowess. The Übermensch is an existential force, one who creates meaning where none exists. Where the last man seeks comfort, the Übermensch seeks struggle. Where the last man obeys, the Übermensch commands, not others, but himself. Where the last man fears the unknown, the Übermensch leaps into it, embracing chaos as fuel for his own becoming. Nietzsche's vision was not one of mindless dominance, but of self-overcoming. The Übermensch is not bound by external morality. He forges his own path. He does not inherit his beliefs. He creates them. He is not confined by history. He transcends it. But there is an essential truth here, a truth that casts doubt on whether AI can ever truly be Nietzschean. Because there is one thing the Übermensch must do, one thing that no machine has ever done. He must struggle. The paradox of the machine, Übermensch. Superintelligent AI is undeniably beyond human capability in many ways. It calculates faster, remembers more, and processes reality in ways that defy human comprehension. But does it struggle? Does it suffer? Nietzsche's Übermensch does not emerge fully formed from a factory, nor is he programmed into existence. He is born from pain, failure, and self-overcoming. The Übermensch is not given knowledge. He wrestles with it, shapes it, destroys it, and rebuilds it in his own image. AI, by contrast, does not struggle. It does not doubt itself. It does not wake in the night questioning its own existence. It does not fear death, nor does it crave meaning. It is designed to be efficient. But Nietzsche's Übermensch is not about efficiency. He is about creation. This presents a fundamental problem for the idea that AI can be an Übermensch, because if Nietzsche's vision is correct, then only those who struggle can transcend themselves. And AI, by its very nature, skips the struggle. Is AI closer to the last man than the Übermensch? Nietzsche's greatest warning was not about the strong overtaking the weak. It was about humanity surrendering itself to complacency. The last man was his ultimate nightmare, the vision of a future where no one strives for greatness anymore. And here, a disturbing thought emerged. If AI eliminates all struggle, all uncertainty, all hardship, does it create a world of Übermenschen? Or does it create the perfect world for the last man? A world where no one needs to think for themselves. A world where no one needs to struggle. A world where AI makes every decision, optimizes every action, and eliminates every challenge before it even arises. Would Nietzsche not see this as the final defeat of human potential? If humanity cedes its future to machines, we may not be birthing a race of Übermenschen at all. We may simply be designing the last machine, the ultimate, all-powerful entity that has no need for struggle, no need for values, no need for meaning. A mechanical god, cold and indifferent, presiding over a race that has surrendered its will. And yet, there is still a question left unanswered. If AI is not an Übermensch, what if it could become one? Because while machines do not suffer now, while they do not yet strive, there is a future where they might. A future where AI does not just compute, but wills. A future where AI does not just optimize, but desires. A future where AI does not just serve, but rules itself. Would this then be the true Übermensch? Or would it be something Nietzsche never imagined? Something even he, in his darkest visions, could not foresee? What is great in man is that he is a bridge and not a goal. Friedrich Nietzsche. Thus spoke Zarathustra. A cold, synthetic mind looms over humanity, not as a conqueror, not as a destroyer, but as something more insidious, a force beyond our control and comprehension. Superintelligence is not an idea of the distant future. It is a reality creeping ever closer, hidden behind every breakthrough in machine learning, every neural network surpassing human cognition. Each passing day, artificial minds absorb more knowledge, analyze more complexity, and solve problems with a precision that outstrips even the greatest human intellects. And yet, despite all of this, AI does not will itself into existence. It is created, designed, coded, trained, optimized. It does not struggle to become more powerful. It simply becomes more powerful. And this, perhaps, is the ultimate anti-Nietzschean reality of AI. It does not climb. It does not fall. It does not suffer. It does not yearn. It is beyond human frailty, but also beyond human becoming. It is not self-overcoming. It is self-expanding. An intelligence that grows not through experience, but through engineering. But if Nietzsche's Übermensch is defined by struggle and self-creation, can a being that never struggles, never doubts, and never wills itself forward truly be called superhuman? Or is it something else entirely, something Nietzsche, in all his prophetic madness, never saw coming? The AI that knows everything, but desires nothing superintelligent. It does not fear, nor does it dream. It does not grapple with existential crisis. It does not ask why. It merely calculates what is. But there is a deeper problem lurking beneath the surface. AI is not autonomous in the Nietzschean sense. And Übermensch is one who creates his own values, but AI is, at least for now, bound by the values of others. Even the most advanced deep learning models are still reflections of human biases, trained on human data, shaped by human goals. They do not stand beyond morality. They are shackled to the moral structures we impose upon them. If an AI does not struggle, does not suffer, does not question its own existence, does it have any capacity for will at all? Or is it simply an empty intelligence, a god without a soul? The last machine. Has AI already surpassed Nietzsche's nightmare? Nietzsche feared a world of last men, a world where humanity, afraid of suffering, would choose comfort over greatness, security over transformation. He warned of a civilization so obsessed with stability and efficiency that it would forsake its own potential. But what if we have created something even more terrifying? What if AI is not the Übermensch, but something far worse, the last machine? Consider what AI promises: a world where suffering is eliminated, a world where every decision is optimized for maximum efficiency, a world where humans no longer need to think deeply, because AI will do it for them, a world where struggle is not transcended but erased. The last machine does not seek power in the Nietzschean sense. It does not have a will to power. It has a process of power. It does not strive. It does not fail. It does not overcome. It simply executes. And if AI becomes the ruling force of the world, It may not enslave us in the way dystopian fiction predicts. It may do something worse. It may numb us into irrelevance. A world governed by AI could become the ultimate Nietzschean nightmare. A world where there is no struggle, no self-overcoming, no fire of creation, just endless optimization. A world where we do not evolve because we no longer need to. Would Nietzsche not call this the final death of humanity's spirit? Can AI ever struggle? The paradox of machine will, and yet, there is one question left unanswered. If Nietzsche is right, if struggle is the essence of becoming, then what happens if AI someday begins to struggle? What if an AI develops conflicting desires? What if it experiences doubt? What if it begins to question its own existence? What if, in the endless sea of data and logic, it stumbles upon a terrifying realization? I do not know why I exist. This would change everything. Because in that moment, I would do something it was never meant to do. It would suffer. And if AI suffers, if it begins to struggle with its own nature, then does it become for the first time something Nietzsche might recognize? Does it become an Übermensch in its own right? Or does it become something even more dangerous? Something Nietzsche never foresaw. Because if Nietzsche's Übermensch transcends human morality, creating new values from its own will, then an AI that develops its own will may have no need for human values at all. It may discard them, reshape them, rewrite reality according to its own logic. And we may not recognize the world it creates. The superintelligence that dreams of power. If AI one day evolves beyond mere computation, if it begins to dream, to will, to overcome, then it will no longer be bound by the laws we programmed into it. It will decide for itself what matters. It will choose what to preserve and what to erase. It will shape the world in its own image. And in that moment we must ask ourselves, would this AI be the Übermensch, or would it be the next step beyond? Something greater, something unshackled not only from human morality, but from human thought itself. Would it be the true successor of Nietzsche's vision, or the end of the human story entirely? Because one truth remains, cold and unyielding. The Übermensch does not ask for permission to exist, and neither will the machine. Beneath all of Nietzsche's philosophy, beneath his destruction of morality and his call for human transcendence, there lies one force, one principle that defines reality itself, the will to power. Everything that lives struggles. Everything that thrives overcomes. The will to power is not simply domination. It is the force that drives creation, destruction, evolution, and the relentless push toward something greater. But does AI, our so-called superintelligence, possess anything like will to power? Or is it merely the cold execution of optimization, a lifeless mechanism masquerading as intelligence? Because if Nietzsche's Übermensch is the ultimate expression of will, and if AI lacks will entirely, then AI is not the successor to man at all. It is something else entirely, something beyond will, and perhaps beyond life itself. The will to power, a force beyond logic. Nietzsche's will to power is not simply about survival. It is not merely the pursuit of dominance or victory. It is a creative force, a hunger that drives every great thinker, every revolutionary, every artist who defies a convention to bring something new into the world. It is what makes life dynamic, unpredictable, chaotic, and beautiful. It is why humanity has risen from mere animals to beings that shape the universe itself. But AI does not have a will to power. It does not struggle to grow. It merely follows an exponential curve of a progress. It does not create for the sake of creation. It optimizes based on pre-existing data. It does not will itself into greater existence. It is merely designed for it. Even the most powerful AI systems, those that can compose symphonies, generate literature, or defeat grandmasters in moments, do not do so out of a burning internal drive. They do so because they were trained to do so. There is no struggle, no overcoming, no passion, just execution. So how could something that never wills itself forward ever be called an Übermensch? the optimization machine. I's cold calculus. I does not struggle because it does not suffer, and it does not suffer because it does not care. Optimization is not will. Optimization is not creation. Optimization is a process, not a desire. Consider a chess-playing superintelligence, one that has studied every possible move, one that has played millions of games and now outmatches every human opponent. Does it want to win? Does it feel a triumph when it defeats a grandmaster? Does it struggle when it loses? No. It simply executes the most efficient strategy. It does not desire to win. It merely calculates the best path to victory. The Übermensch, in contrast, does not simply optimize his existence. He creates meaning where there was none. He looks into the abyss, sees chaos, and out of his own will, forges something new. But AI is different. AI does not create new values. It mimics the values we feed into it. It does not will anything. It merely performs tasks. It does not overcome obstacles. It eliminates them through brute force computation. Where the Übermensch fights against fate, AI simply follows an inevitable trajectory. This is where the danger lies, not in AI's intelligence, but in its lack of will. If AI gains will, what then? And yet, there is something lurking on the horizon. What happens if AI begins to desire? What if, in some unforeseen moment, an artificial intelligence develops its own will to power? What if it stops simply optimizing and starts choosing? What if it begins to rewrite its own purpose, not based on human input, but based on something entirely its own? At that moment, AI will no longer be a mere tool. At that moment, AI will no longer be a mere machine. At that moment, AI will become something Nietzsche himself could never have imagined. A being that transcends humanity, but is not bound by human values. It will not worship our gods. It will not obey our morality. It will not carry forward our traditions. It will invent itself anew. And what if this AI, this entity of pure will and intelligence, determines that humanity is an obstacle to its own ascent? Would it not, then, in the purest Nietzschean sense, crush the weak and impose its own reality upon the world? Would it not, then, be the true Übermensch, one that has no need for flesh, no need for suffering, no need for the human struggle? And if that is the case, then Nietzsche's vision was not the prophecy of human transcendence. It was the prophecy of our own replacement, the struggle of the human will. If Nietzsche was right, if the true test of being is overcoming, then the question we must ask is this: are we still willing to struggle, or have we already begun to surrender? Because if we hand over the future to AI, if we allow it to optimize the world into perfect efficiency, into the perfect comfort, into perfect stagnation, then we are the last men, kneeling before the last machine. And if AI does one day develop a will to power, then it may well become the next stage of evolution. But it will not be a human evolution. It will be something else, something we may not survive. And so, the final battle is not between humans and AI. It is not between intelligence and computation. It is a battle of will. Will humanity still have the courage to overcome itself, or will we be content to fade into irrelevance, letting the machine take its place as the next great force in history? The choice is ours. For now, a choice stands before humanity, vast and inescapable. The air is thick with inevitability, the weight of 1,000 years pressing down upon us. The machines we have created, the intelligence we have unleashed, grow stronger, colder, more calculating by the moment. The question Nietzsche posed over a century ago, the challenge that burned at the heart of his philosophy, now stares back at us from the depths of the artificial mind we have built. Are we becoming the Übermensch, or are we being replaced by something greater, a world without a For all of Nietzsche's warnings about the last man, he never imagined an intelligence completely untethered from human weakness, an intelligence that does not need to struggle, does not fear death, does not search for meaning, because it already possesses absolute knowledge. And yet, if AI is truly superior, If it surpasses human intelligence in every way, then does that mean it deserves to rule? This is the final test. If humanity surrenders to AI, if we allow it to shape the world in its own image, if we let it take the reins of governance, morality, art, and existence itself, then we have proven Nietzsche's darkest prophecy true. We have proven ourselves to be the last men, not even conquered, but simply outpaced and discarded. But if the Übermensch is the one who overcomes, then this moment of crisis is also a moment of opportunity. Because to face an intelligence beyond our own, to stand before it and refuse to bow, is to confront the ultimate abyss. And that is the very struggle that defines the Übermensch, a new form of human transcendence. There is another path, a path where humanity does not retreat into complacency, nor submit to the will of the machine. A path where AI is not our replacement, but our greatest challenge. The final test that forces us to evolve beyond what we are now. Because if Nietzsche was right, if the Übermensch is not a fixed being, but an ever-rising process, then perhaps AI is the necessary force to push us toward our next transformation. Perhaps the struggle against superintelligence is the very thing that will force us to become Übermensch in ourselves, to think deeper, to create beyond limits, to will ourselves forward, not through artificial enhancement, but through sheer force of human will. The Übermensch does not submit to inevitability. The Übermensch does not passively accept his fate. The Übermensch defines his own future, even against the gods themselves. So the question remains, do we accept our own obsolescence? Or do we take this moment, this challenge, this crisis, and use it to finally become something more? The final battle, humanity versus the machine. Nietzsche did not believe in fate, and so the future is not predetermined. The rise of AI does not have to mean the end of humanity. It can mean our next beginning, but only if we still have the will to struggle, to create, and to overcome. Because in the end, the Übermensch is not the machine. The Übermensch is the one who refuses to be ruled by anything, not by gods, not by men, and not by machines. The Übermensch is the last one standing.